bonus bubble burst at the G20 summit next week, or will it just be back to business as usual at the banks? Hello and welcome to another exclusive interview with the Dutch Prime Minister Jan-Peter Balkenende, and we'll also be taking questions from you, the viewer, during this interview. Mr. Balkenende, welcome to the programme. A very, very heavy week of debating here in The Hague. Lots coming up as well next week in New York and in Pittsburgh. But let's just have a look at where the public attention here in the Netherlands was. A quick film. Well, the ever-popular Dutch royals. Not many politicians can pull a crowd like that off, can they?
That's true. Our royal family is very popular. And as you already said, it's an important day, the third Tuesday of September. That's the start of our parliamentary season.
Prinsesdag, as it's known, of course, a big Dutch tradition.
Yeah, Prinsesdag. And that's also the day when the Queen gives a speech on behalf of the government. That's what we call the troonrede. And that's a presentation of our plans. But besides the official event in the Ridderzaal, the Hall of Knights, then you can see that there are a lot of people watching the Queen, but also the Prince of Orange, our Crown Prince, and Princess Maxima, and the other members of the royal family.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, huge crowds, obviously, they remain as popular as ever. But some of your opposition parties have also actually been dragging the royal family into the political debate, calling again for this week for a review, a tightening of belts for the royal family, a cut in the budget of the royal household. You've said again, no. Why?
I found this was a bit disappointing because not so long ago we spoke about financial facilities for the royal family. And there was a complete agreement among the members of parliament to do it in that way. So we've had these discussions, everybody agreed, and now suddenly people are saying we should bring down the income of our Queen.
But it's understandable. I mean, jobs are going, huge economic recession.
But we have a system that when we get more, also the royal family will get more, and if we would get less, then the same will happen with members of the royal family. And that has to do with the new financial system. So I disagreed with these proposals. I think that was not really fair to the royal family.
Well, let's stick though with the subject of the tightening of belts. Of course, that's going to be the top of the agenda next week at the G20 in Pittsburgh, which of course you'll be attending. World leaders say that they're going to put an end to the culture of fat multi-million bonuses, something which of course you and your cabinet, I mean, you were the first to bang the drum about this, weren't you?
I think it's very important to talk about this issue. In the first place, when we had a financial crisis, of course people talked about the analysis. How did it come so far? What was the reason behind the financial difficulties, the reason behind the financial crisis? And one of these factors was, of course, the perverse stimuli in the financial sector. And if people are acting, considering what they can earn with the bonuses and with short-term revenues, then it's really a risky affair. And that happened. So therefore, it's important to say we need other kind of stimuli in the financial sector. That's one. And the second argument is, so many people now are suffering. People with ordinary income, people who are losing their jobs, and of course that's linked to the financial crisis. And it's for people not understandable that on the one hand they will probably lose their job, and on the other hand, the financial sector would go on with having these big bonuses.
However, I mean, the argument is clear enough. We know that not everybody agrees about whether or not it's actually the governments who should be cutting in or interfering in these bonuses. Let's have a look at some quick opinions here now.
For top executives to award themselves these kinds of compensation packages in the midst of this economic crisis isn't just bad taste, it's bad strategy.
I think it's really not done.
Whenever there is no success, the bonus should not be there.
We will implement new rules on pay and bonuses at a global level that reflect actual performance with no more rewards for failure.
If they do a lot, then it could be a good thing that they earn their bonuses.
To regulate it, to put any limits on it would be a mistake.
Bonuses are legitimate only if the banks are profitable. With the G20, certainly the more coordinated the approach is, the better, because of course the banks are nowadays so international.
I think that the companies are well suited to decide whether to give people bonuses or not, and it's not up to governments to do that.
And this is not just a matter of dollars and cents, it's about our fundamental values.
Prime Minister, we just saw a shot there of Citigroup, and we just heard that a trader there at the company will be netting $100 million as his salary. No. So the question is, has anything really changed? All this talk, big headlines, big promises, and yet you still get these big salaries.
That's a very good question. And I think that's the fundamental point. We need action now. That's also the reason why we here in the Netherlands have said we have to change things. And there has been a code.
A code for banks?
A code for banks, and that has to do with the phenomenon of the bonuses. So we are limiting the amounts of money spent on bonuses. I think that's important. I've also sent a letter to all the participants of the G20 just to inform them which kind of steps we are taking. Last week
but let's just have a look. I'm sorry, Prime Minister. Let's just have a look at this question of the code. It looks great on paper, but actually you're not formally going to turn it into law until 2010 at the very earliest. At the moment it's kind of going to be a self-regulating mechanism, isn't it?
The first step is, of course, self-regulation. But we also will work on a law, and that's important because then you have also a legal basis. And when we have that legal basis, then the banks are obliged to inform in the annual reports about their policy as far as the bonuses are concerned. So you have and self-regulation and government regulation. And I think that's really important. And last week I spoke with President Sarkozy about this issue, and he was very committed to work on this issue. And he said we have to make a success of the G20 summit in Pittsburgh on this issue.
Well, here I have a question for you, really, because you were the first. I mean, the Dutch are obviously famously egalitarian nation. Your cabinet was the first last winter already to come with this whole discussion about the bonuses, and yet, really, it's Mr. Sarkozy who's stolen your thunder on this, talking about remoralizing capitalism. This would have been a great platform for you as a nation, wouldn't it, to have really banged the drum about this on the bonuses?
Yeah. But I must say, when the code for the banks was there, it attracted a lot of international attention. In many newspapers you could read about it. And that's also the reason why people are interested in the experience of the Netherlands. And that's also the reason why we sent the information about this code to the participants who will be in Pittsburgh next week.
However, EU leaders were meeting in Brussels yesterday. They already said, well, we're going to try and strike a compromise with London and Washington, which of course famously don't want to set an actual limit. Is there not a big risk here that you're going to end up with something very loose that's not going to end up too much?
But I must say the remarks of President Obama were extremely important. And he said that phenomenon of the bonuses is not only bad taste, it's bad strategy. And I think that's a very good remark because it clarifies the situation of today. We have to change things, and therefore you need an international strategy. And that's also what I heard from one of the people who were in the short film. And he said, you need also an international, a global approach, because the financial world is acting worldwide. And if some countries are active with having these codes and others would not act in the same way, then of course you have a problematic situation. Therefore it's important that we will be able to show success in Pittsburgh.
It's something that people can hold on to. A question here from one of our viewers in New Delhi, India, Ravi Attar. He says, as a result of the crisis, ministers in India have been called on to cut their own salaries by 20%. Even the Congress party leader Sonia Gandhi flew economy to attend one of the government meetings. Shouldn't Western politicians be doing exactly the same thing?
Well,
will you be flying economy to Pittsburgh? No?
It's even worse. No, but I will explain what will happen. In the Netherlands, people are convinced that the salaries of ministers are very low compared to what's happening within the private sector, but also civil servants are earning more than the ministers in my cabinet. So there was a committee that said you have to increase your income with 30% at least. There were plans to do that, but we said no, we will not take any decision on that. So everybody's convinced that the salary is too low, but we said no, we'll keep it in the same way. So that's what we have done.
All right. Prime Minister, now, it has been possibly one of the worst or most challenging weeks for you here in The Hague. You've been under attack, personal and professional. And there's been a lot of talk about you. And one of our viewers actually in Brussels, Carl Dolan, puts the question straight up. He says, will you be giving Tony Blair a run for his money by going for the top job of EU president?
Tony Blair is a very interesting candidate, and
so would you be.
Well, I see the portrait of José Manuel Barroso as a good friend of mine. And earlier this year, people were also talking about the fact, are you interested in becoming the new president of the European Commission? And I said, no, he must be.
It's not just about the Commission, it's really about the Council. We've got it here in the Financieel Dagblad. We've also got the Telegraaf today saying, again, fresh rumours about Mr. Balkenende in Brussels. This has been persistent, and you would be a good candidate.
I must say, I like it very much to be Prime Minister of the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
But you've done it for 7 years.
Yeah, but the job is not over yet. We have so many things on our agenda. We are talking about a financial and economic crisis. It's so important to do our job.
A big agenda, but also in Brussels, obviously. I mean, are you categorically ruling out a job in Brussels if it were to come up?
I say I want to make a success of this term, of this cabinet, and I'm working for that.
OK, but would you rule it out? If the letter came from Brussels saying, look, got a great post here, 27 countries, would you rule it out?
No, but you also know the situation that it's only speculation. We even don't know whether there will be permanent president of the European Council. You know also, first we need the referendum in Ireland. Nobody knows what will happen over there.
But you're confident it will be a yes?
I really hope, because in the interest of Europe, we must have the Lisbon Treaty.
All right, well, Prime Minister, I still expect to perhaps see you in Brussels someday. Thank you.
But you can also meet me there, but then in my capacity as Prime Minister of the Netherlands. And
we'll
that will be the case.
I think we'll come back to this discussion, I'm sure. Thank you so much, Prime Minister, for joining us for this interview, and thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.